Welcome into the college football every game on the board podcast section number 4 with our closer, Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. Teddy, welcome in. How you feeling?
It's amazing. Like I'm always like tweet it, and then I forget. And then as soon as you say welcome, I'm like, oh crap, I got to tweet it. And I run over and try to retweet what we got going. But I'm doing pretty good, Drew. I got no complaints. I'll be perfectly honest. Well, there's always something to complain about, but it's been a pretty good run in both college football and the NFL. It's been a pretty good football season. The clients are happy. I'm making money. I really can't complain too much.
Hey, when you're making money in sports betting, that is a good thing. And Teddy, you've been doing it. Check them out, guys. WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com, talking about retweeting. If you're watching on Periscope, come and join us. You can come and join us in the chat box. Please like the content. If you're watching simulcast live on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, come join us in the chat box as well. So, Teddy, we got 4-11, 4-12 here, LSU, Florida, down to the end of the card on Saturday in college football. So let's start off here with the cross-division rivalry, I guess we could call it, in the SEC. LSU at Florida. We're seeing the Florida Gators minus 23 at home in Gainesville, 68.5 being the total in the Swamp on Saturday night.
Yeah, look at these SEC totals, man. They're through the roof. It's the highest scoring con. We're like, oh, the Big 12 crazy totals, the Pac-12 crazy totals. When you look at the conference championship game odds that are already posted for next week, it's the SEC with the highest totals, certainly Florida, one of those teams. And I don't blame this game for being as, you can understand why the total is where it is when Dan Mullen is giving Kyle Trask every chance. What do you have, 38 touchdown passes on the year? Every chance to enhance those Heisman credentials. And, of course, the Gators making money at the Swamp. 8 wins. I have 1 loss, 2 push their last 11 at home. Last year, LSU 42-28. Florida's in revenge. Tigers were 13.5-point favorites in that game. Basically, you got the best of the number. You got a half-point cover with LSU. The year before was a pick'em game. Florida wins that 27-19. LSU is not showing me any bet on signs down the stretch. This was a championship team last year. In recent weeks, we saw them, bombed by Alabama. And look, Alabama's bombing everyone. But 55-17 is not the normal score that we're used to seeing when LSU has a decent team against Alabama. It was 20-7 against A&M, and that was a weather game, no question. But the offense didn't work in that game. 48-11 versus Auburn, the offense didn't work in that game. When you have these teams, and of course LSU just announced that they are self-imposing a 1-year bowl ban on themselves. All this stuff tells me that LSU is a team that I probably don't want my money on. It's Florida or pass. Although you're certainly not getting any point spread bargains with the Gators. We talked that in recent weeks about, hey, Florida gets a chance, they'll punch in that last score. Florida gets a chance, they'll punch in that last score because of the Heisman considerations. And yet, when all's said and done, it's a Gator team. Their last cover came back in early November against Arkansas. Last 3 against the spread, 2 losses and a push, and no balls to the wall. We're going to crush this team against Tennessee last week. They were in control of that game. They fell asleep at the wheel. The Vols came in to get the money as a result, but there wasn't, let's get Trask another touchdown. Let's get Trask another touchdown. We didn't see any of that last week, even though we did kind of see it in the Kentucky game, although they came up just short, 1 yard short on that final drive.
Teddy, I agree with everything you said, and I want to ask you a question here because you understand the betting markets as good as anybody in this industry, and you talked about the total with the Florida Gators, also betting on the Florida Gators. It kind of sets up – the recipe is there with Kyle Trask going for a Heisman, Dan Mullen, the offensive mind there. Florida, you could almost make the argument style points kind of matter here coming to the stretch in terms of getting into the playoffs. And going back to the Vanderbilt game on November 21st, I was involved in that. I lost because I was looking to go on the Vanderbilt Florida over the total, looking for them to punch it in more like you're talking about. Sure enough, the Florida Gators have had 3 straight unders in their last 3 games and gone 1-2, I guess, depending on what number you're betting them at, even 0-3 ATS, that push against the Kentucky game, depending where the number was at. So the Gators have not been a great bet down the stretch. That philosophy that, I was talking about, like you pointed to, betting on the Gators, they have reasons to punch it in late. It just hasn't hasn't been there. And I think it speaks to the tax on the Florida Gators. It's just too high. You're having to pay too much to be involved with the Gators, and wanted to throw that over to you in terms of, do you turn the wheels the other way and maybe look to bet them under, bet against them down the stretch because it hasn't been working?
LSU gave up 55 last week to a good offense. And that's a big concern for me when it comes to unders. Mississippi. I mean, you don't want to go back to the beginning of the season where they got lit up at Mississippi State, but Missouri lit them up, Auburn lit them up. It's a defense that concerns me. It's a last home game for a QB who, even though it hasn't worked in recent weeks, I'm certainly not going to look back, look the other way and say, yeah, I know LSU's been cashing unders too. They last week's over was their first over since before Halloween. That offense hasn't worked really well. But I'm not necessarily inclined to look at this one under the total, given LSU's defensive struggles and Florida's desire to get Trask all the stats he can get.
Teddy, staying in the Sunshine State here, we got UNC at the Miami Hurricanes. Next game up, guys, 419, 420. The rotation number 3:30 Eastern kick on ABC. Looks like 68 the total in Hard Rock, with the Canes laying 3 at home.
Yeah, Miami was -5 last year at North Carolina. They lost that game 28-25. The previous meeting, Miami 47-10. They rolled over the Tar Heels in that one. We have seen some sharp money on UNC in early week play, and it's worth noting because there's been so little sharp money in the college football betting markets early in the week because of all the COVID instances. But this is one that we had some 3.5s on North Carolina, and those got sucked up by the wise guys already. So they wanted that particular key number, or whatever group it was, wanted that particular key number, even though with most of the college football, real bigger line swings are coming on Friday and Saturday after we're more confident in knowing who's going to be playing. North Carolina is 7-3. Only one of their 3 losses came by more than a field goal, that against Notre Dame and their elite defense. They're coming off a big blowout over Western Carolina. Miami, their first home game since October. Every home game so far this year, they've won by 5 or more. And of course, this isn't Duke. The clients and I cashed pretty easy last week. Doesn't get a whole lot easier than Miami was last week against Duke. The spread was covered, I think, by the end of the first quarter, and that was a game that you could turn off well before it went final. Duke had nothing, and Miami destroyed it. It was an easy winner for the clients and I, and that's the only way I would look in this one as well with the Miami Hurricanes. The problem, of course, is that Miami's only had to deal with one offense that compares to North Carolina's this year. That was Clemson's, and they got lit up in that ball game. So, Sam Howell's got 64 touchdown passes in less than 2 seasons. He drove them down the field to get the win last year. Late touchdown pass was the difference in that ball game. You talk about totals for this one, and again, there's no bargains in that regard at 68, and yet with Howell on the one side and Derek King. King has 10 touchdowns, no picks in his last 4 starts. He's been pretty darn good of late. I wouldn't be surprised to see these 2 teams trading touchdowns for a long time on Saturday. Lean over, lean Miami. I don't know that I get the window with either one.
Yeah, I like the Canes here too, Teddy. You talked about it. Rhett Lashley, Derek King, that combination, quarterback, offensive coordinator, looking good of late. Last week, beat Duke 48-0. Plus the fact Miami's defense causing a lot of havoc. That's what UNC's offense has somewhat struggled with, just sitting there 4-6 ATS. They have averaged over 40 points a game. So it speaks to UNC having trouble on the defensive end. I'm with you. I like the Canes, and I lean over as well. We got Virginia Tech staying in the ACC. Up next, 8:00 Eastern kick here, 63 being the total. Virginia Tech, -2 in the hook or -3. Good one to shop around, guys. This one in Lane Stadium.
And this line, can you explain this line to me, Drew?
I kind of like Virginia here.
Yeah, of course you like Virginia there, dude. It's a line. It's a head scratcher of a line. It's 4 points off my number. I thought Virginia would be road chalk in this game, and they're not. And I don't have a lot of games that are far off at this time of the year, and this is absolutely one of them. Virginia had lost, 15 in a row in the series. They beat them up last year, 39-30. They were +2 in that game.
Oh, wow.
They were minus 5.5. They were favorites in 2018. They lost 34-31. But again, a competitive contest and a +3, a 3-point loss is just fine. And this is a Cavs team. They had a bad October. They lost 4 straight. Since that time, they've had 4 straight wins. They were dogs once, beat North Carolina, twice as a favorite of less than a touchdown, beat Louisville and Boston College. So they've absolutely played their best football over the course of the last month. Brandon Armstrong had 417 total yards against BC, dual threat QB, and Virginia Tech's 1-5 straight up their last 6. They have 4 straight losses. They were blown out by Clemson and Pitt in their last 2 games. There was no rally. Sometimes you have a couple of tough losses. The team rallies. They lost to Miami, tight game. They lost to Liberty, tight game, early November. And since that, the offense is 24 points, and the 2 losses allowed combined, the defense allowed 92. In fact, this isn't a Bud Foster defense for Virginia Tech. 110th in total defense for Virginia Tech. Ouch. Justin Fuente's job's on the line. I understand that. Maybe Virginia Tech, and that may be why the Hokies have held at 3 all week, because this is a win-one for the coach type of deal. And I don't blame all the troubles in Blacksburg on Justin Fuente. But this is likely to be Virginia Tech's first non-bowl season since 1992. So what, is this their bowl game? I don't know if that's good enough. Worth noting, Virginia 13-2 to the over their last 15 ball games overall.
Nice stat there, Teddy covers. As we head to the Big Ten up next, 423-424, the rotation number 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific kick here. Minnesota rowing the boat in Lincoln, Nebraska, taking on the Cornhuskers, -10 in the hook. That's Nebraska at home, 59.5 being the total in Lincoln, Teddy.
Yeah, the spread here is not right. I think Nebraska's going to win the game, but I'm not. They're certainly priced, higher than I'm disappointed in this point spread, because I thought we might get a shot with Nebraska at less than a touchdown here, and that's just not the case. Last year, Minnesota was 7.5-point home favorites. They won that game 34-7. The year before, Nebraska was -5. They won that game 53-28. So it's a Minnesota team. Their last 2 games have been canceled. Okay, so there's no rhythm, and teams are fresher when they don't play, but they're also out of sync. And they've had a bunch of injuries that are not COVID related, but it's a banged up football team that's in no rhythm. The offense has been okay this year. I haven't been impressed with their receiving core at all. Morgan's been okay at QB, but I haven't seen a whole lot of playmakers for the squad like Bateman was for them last year. And the defense got lit up. It's the worst defense since 2007. A Gopher team that went 1-11, giving up 35 points a game. And it's hard to ask a team with a mediocre offense and a spoiled season and a bad defense to compete at this stage of the year. It really is. Meanwhile, Nebraska's been making their backers money. They covered 3 of their last 4. They had a straight-up win as a dog at Purdue. They had a straight-up win as a dog against Penn State. Adrian Martinez, 41 of 50 over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, he got benched against Illinois, and ever since then, he's been impressive. Let's call it what it is. The last 2 weeks, they've been dominant defensively. They shut down Iowa, held Iowa to 322 total yards, 2.9 yards per carry. They held Purdue to negative rushing yardage in West Lafayette last week. I think Nebraska wins the game, but I don't know if I'm ready to lay 10.5 with Nebraska. You know what I mean? They've been so dicey for so long. That point spread to me, it's a one-way game. I'm only laying if I'm playing, but it's unfortunately the odds makers have devalued Minnesota as much as, or more than I thought they would. Minnesota's a bad team right now.
Teddy, we got another early kick here in the Big Ten. Illinois at Northwestern. Northwestern -2 touchdown home favorites here, -14 in Evanston, 40.5 being the total. Low total, Teddy.
So Illinois was a 7-point favorite in this game last year. They got bombed. They lost 29-10, but I remember it. And the year before, Northwestern -15. They won by 14. So 19-point win, 14-point win for the Wildcats over the last 2 meetings. Now, Northwestern's been a monster under team overall. 5-1 their last 6 at home, 13-5 to the under their last 18 overall. Illinois has been good in this road dog roll. 5-1 their last 6 here. But this is much less about Illinois as it is about Northwestern. Northwestern will be playing for the Big Ten title against Ohio State next week. Ohio State doesn't have to play this week. How focused are the Wildcats? Are they interested in winning by margin? Interested in running up score, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? They had that game canceled against Minnesota last week. Prior to that, they had the debacle at Michigan State. That was their first straight up or point spread loss all year. Northwestern's defense has been phenomenal. It really has. Top 10 in the country in total yards, pass efficiency, defense, scoring defense. They're only getting about 15 points a game. It's an offense that, if you saw Ramsey early in the season, you're like, wow, they're going to light teams up. And it just hasn't been that way. Peyton Ramsey hasn't come close to putting up the type of numbers for Northwestern that he did in 3 years at Indiana. So that another reason why you might want to tap the brakes, talk about laying a price with Northwestern. But I worry about the Illini's mental state here. They were up 14-0 last week against Iowa, a team with momentum, a team feeling good about themselves, a team with wins under their belt. And pretty much the rest of the game was one-sided. 5 straight Hawkeyes touchdowns after that early Illinois lead. They got a meaningless TD with 24 seconds left, but it didn't matter. They still didn't cover the number and made the final score look better than the game actually was. But I do worry about Illinois. I don't want fragile teams in December against good teams and against good defenses. And the Illini, in my mind, are something of a fragile team. So it's an easy pass for me. If I'm going to do anything, I'll look at the under. And when we're talking about totals, sitting at 40 or 40.5 in college football, I don't get to the under with those very often.
Teddy, next game up, heading to the Mountain West here. Fresno State at New Mexico. We're seeing Fresno State minus 12-point road favorites, 60 being the total here. The Lobos catching 12. They got to win this season, Teddy.
Yeah, they got to win last. I watched the game against Wyoming. They played great in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen New Mexico look good in games for extended stretches. And then, a lot of bad things seem to happen to that team, and they haven't been able to put it together for 60 minutes. And last week they put it together for 60 minutes. We'll give them credit. Fresno minus 14.5 against New Mexico last year. They won that game 38-7. They were minus 3 in Albuquerque in 2018, won that game 38-0. So the last two meetings, Fresno 76, New Mexico 7. It's been pretty ugly. But this may be different. Fresno's 3-2 this year. The 3 wins came against Utah State, UNLV, and Colorado State. Those teams were combined 2-13. So maybe you say chill on Fresno. And of course, their QB Hebner is just coming off a game where he threw 65 times in the loss to the Wolfpack last week. A team that can't really run the football all that well. New Mexico's been settled here actually they're not staying here in Las Vegas. They're in Henderson, which is the suburb of Las Vegas. It's you wouldn't know the difference as you go from one town to the next.
Yeah,
it's part of Vegas. They've been out of
New City.
Yeah. They've been out at Lake Las Vegas. They're playing out at Sam Boyd Stadium. Now, look, they're on their 5th string quarterback. Okay, the Frosh, Isaiah Chavez. Okay, that said, Isaiah Chavez, the 5th string quarterback, threw the game-winning TD last week. With the game on the line to beat the Cowboys. But yeah, Hall's out again. Tuiotti's out again. Janal's out again. It's going to be Chavez going for the Lobos here. And of course, it ended the nation's longest losing streak. They lost 14 in a row briefly because Akron beat Bowling Green earlier in the day. Akron had the longest losing streak. But I'm not in a rush to lay this price with Fresno. I'm not convinced Fresno's that good. I understand the last 2 years it's been very, very one-sided. But I like the Lobos' attitude. I like that they finally won a game last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if they hang tough this time around. I'd be taking rather than laying in this one.
Teddy, we're doing good pace-wise. We got 6 games left in 15 minutes. San Diego State, BYU up next. BYU hosting here. 17-point home favorites, 47 being the total.
So last year, San Diego State was 5.5-point dogs to BYU. They won that game 13-3. So we certainly know that the Aztecs are capable. There's December weather up in Provo. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say BYU is a tricky handicap here. Off
really tricky. They're both tricky handy. I'll start with this. There's no freaking way I'm playing this game. And the money's come. There's been heavy money for BYU today. All right, there were 16.5s, et cetera, this morning. Now we're seeing 17s and 17.5s. And that was one of those moves where the screen went black. So it was a coordinated syndicate action for BYU, which could be anything. And look, I don't trust San Diego State. When we talk about the normal circumstances, November weather, we worry about taking some of these teams from Southern California when they travel up and face, whether it's the Pac-12 teams or whether it's Mountain West teams, and they go up and play in weather. December weather's real. It's supposed to be cold in Provo this weekend. It's supposed to be the chance of snow. This is not San Diego State weather. They're not used to playing in these conditions in mid-December. So it's a little bit different. And San Diego State, when they fall behind, they're hopeless. Okay, the quarterback is not good. And Jordan Brookshire, 48% completions. They have 5 touchdown passes as a team in 7 games. Brady Hoke starting to do here what he did at Michigan to set the stage for the Jim Harbaugh era. I don't like the direction of the San Diego State program right now. I'll be perfectly honest. And again, last week they had kick returns, a couple of kick return touchdowns, beating up Colorado State. But their top running back's out. Greg Bell is hurt. I worry about the Aztecs, but I have no idea what to do with BYU this week. I'm not going to say that they played poor. It was Coastal Carolina played great, and BYU did. I was surprised that the offense was. It looked like the offense was toying with them early, and then all of a sudden they got out of sync, and it's 3-and-out, and now Coastal has a lead, and now your championship dreams are spoiled and all of that. And I just don't know. I haven't gotten the. I'm not convinced that BYU is going to smack. If BYU brings their A game, they can smack them. I'm not convinced BYU does that. Someone does, because obviously there's been a whole lot of money for the Cougs today. But I do worry about their mental state this week. That was a big loss for BYU, and they may be tired after the unexpected road trip.
Good breakdown, Teddy. We got Navy versus Army up next. I believe this is in West Point, New York. Army actually being the home team here. Minus 7-point favorites, and we go sub 40, Teddy, in the total. 37.5 mostly across the marketplace here for a total. Army versus Navy, of course, limited possessions. It speaks towards this total. Interested in your thoughts here.
So I grew up less than an hour from West Point. It's not that we went there all the time or anything, but we went there a couple times. It's beautiful up there. It's a great place to play football. It's a great place to hang out for the day. And it's going to be the first time this rivalry has been played at West Point since 1943. Army's making a big deal of it. You talked about the total being where it is. Well, let's talk about why the total is where it is. Navy, 31-7 last year. They were minus 11.5. That was the first meeting since 2013 between these two teams to be decided by more than a touchdown. No, 31-7 final score in that game. Navy was minus 11.5. So it wasn't crazy, but 31-7, 38 total points. In 2018, it was Army 17-10. They were minus 7. It was a push to the side. The 38 points last year are very, very typical of this series. It's been 10 straight unders, and we're seeing totals in this range of late in this series. Army, Navy, 10 straight unders. No team has gotten to more than 21 in 5 of the last 6 meetings. It was only Navy last year. They got to 31, and obviously Army didn't score. They only scored 7 in that contest. The under, 10 straight, 15-2 to the under the last 17. It's also been an underdog series. Underdog 4-1-1 in the last 6 meetings. Army has won 3 of the last 4, and they're in revenge for last year, and they are the much better team this year. Army's defense has been good. They're giving them just 16 points a game, under 300 yards a game. They're ranked 3rd in rushing yards. Navy ranks 46th in rushing yards per game this season. That's not what we expect for Navy. The Middies have lost their last 4. They've gotten to 400 yards only once this year. It's been a bad year for Navy, and maybe this is the game they get right in, but Army's the better squad. Army and under. But again, at 38, do you really want that under? 37.5 now you're talking about? At some point, this total does get low enough that even a low-scoring game ends up sneaking over the total. Maybe it's this time. But, yeah, 10 straight unders in the series, and neither offense has worked at all in any recent meeting.
Teddy, heading out to Los Angeles here. We got USC at UCLA, 62 being the total, -2 in the hook. That's the Trojans in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, USC last year, -13.5. They won that game 52-35. 2018, they won 34-27. They were 3-point dogs in that game, which speaks about how Clay Helton has been viewed at various times in his tenure. But here's the undefeated USC Trojans. Here's the problem with USC. Undefeated. All right. And thinking that maybe they have a chance to go to the national title game. They're ranked 15th in the latest college football playoff rankings. They're behind Northwestern. They're behind Coastal Carolina. They're just ahead of 2-loss Iowa. They're just ahead of 3-loss North Carolina. That's who they're right in between. So USC's not going. It's a dream. Okay. It's not happening. Maybe they know it. Meanwhile, UCLA, all they've done, remember at the beginning of the season, we were making fun of the Bruins, how bad they were. They got lit up in that bad first half, and it was all, everything that could go wrong for them did go wrong for them. They've covered every game since. Every game since. And the way they're doing it has been impressive. The defense, the last 2 weeks, and again, Arizona State, they're lesser teams, okay, than USC. Certainly offensively, both of them are lesser teams. But it's a defense that's been making plays. All right. Really, I've been visually, when you watch UCLA, I'm like, damn, this defense is better than I thought. Wow, this defense really is better than I thought. Wow, they're blowing up the line of scrimmage. They have DTR back at QB. They're playing tempo. I think, that first glance, this point spread looked really short. And, of course, USC hung 52 on this team last year. And Slovis had, 515 yards. It was a record. Of course, that was a particularly bad defensive game plan for the Bruins. I don't think we'll see that 2 years in a row, and I would not be surprised at all if UCLA pulls off this upset.
Teddy, it's crazy what's happened in college football here. We got an undefeated Pac-12 team, as low ranked as you're talking, playing against UCLA. I think this is their last game until Pac-12 championship. So yeah, they'll likely get one more against a quality opponent. It'd be crazy to see a Pac-12 team left out undefeated. I don't know, that surprises me.
So, and again, I don't know. I can't claim for a minute to know what the committee is thinking, but recognize that every choice that they make is going to be about who's going to get me ratings, who's going to get me the TV ratings. That's who's going to go, is how do they make the most money off it. That's what this whole college football season is about, is how do we make the most money that we can to keep the other athletic programs in the department funded. So, yeah, but I would not be surprised in the slightest to see the 4 teams in the playoff, the top 2 teams in the SEC and the top 2 teams from the ACC, and that's it.
Oh gosh, that would be terrible for ratings, though.
Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida, Alabama as the Final Four would be terrible for ratings.
No, when I said that, I forgot about the Notre Dame clause. No, I guess you're right. It would only be geographically a certain amount of the country. That's what I would worry about.
Geographically, the parts of the country that are going to watch, and the parts of the country that don't. It really doesn't matter. It's not like Vermont has a team that plays every year,
But if you put in USC, you get the whole Pac-12, contingent there with eyeballs on it. It brings in, I think, more people.
The Trojans are prohibitive long shots to jump up 11 spots and get a college football playoff berth. Could happen. So, I mean, lots of teams got to lose, but stranger things have happened. I don't expect them to do it. I don't even know they're going to win this weekend. So,
Teddy, we got some more Pac-12 action here to end it. Washington at Oregon. We're seeing the Ducks -6-point favorites in Eugene. 55 the total here, Teddy.
Yeah, last year Oregon was -3. They won 35-31. 2008, Washington was -3. Oregon won 30-27. So it's been a 4-point game and a 3-point game over the last 2 seasons. I know I don't want Oregon. Okay. Oregon is bubble burst stuff. Their season's already, whatever. They haven't had much of a season, but it's already ruined. In the last 2 weeks against Oregon State and Cal, -9, -13. They lose both of those games straight up. 0-3 ATS instead 2-0 start. I can't lay points with the Ducks team that, look, they've won 20 straight as favorites at Outson. They're 9-3 the last 12, laying single digits. There's lots of good things to like about Oregon in theory. Mentally, I'm not convinced that team's there. They didn't look like they were there last week. It's Washington's first road game since last November. And this team, the last 2 weeks, they've gotten off these terrible starts. A terrible start against Stanford. Couldn't rally back. Ended up losing as a result. Terrible start against Utah. They're down 21-0. Rally back to win the game. But when you start off super slow, you don't do that against Tyler Shue. He's got some plenty of playmakers on the Oregon side. Huskies have not been good underdogs in recent years, but I wouldn't be surprised. I know I can't lay with Oregon. I just can't do it. I'm expecting a competitive game. It's Washington or pass, but it's going to be a pass. I'm not going to bet it.
This is the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. We're going over every single college football game this weekend. Teddy covers as our closer. We got the first 3 sections going over the top of the Saturday card and the Thursday and Friday slate here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Also, wherever you're downloading your podcast at Sports Memo Podcast. Shout out to the chat box, everybody joining us live. Johnny Outlaw, Eagles Bandwagon, Michael in the house asking best bets for this weekend. We will hit that at the end. Get Teddy's most confident play. I'll give one out as well. Come join us in the chat box. Let us know what you're betting and why. Over 150 people watching right now, both on Periscope and the YouTube channel. If you could please smash that like button, it does help us out. Also, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below and let us know what you're betting, where we can improve. Everything like that is welcome. We got Teddy Covers here on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Hot 78% in the NFL the last 5 weeks. Rock solid 64% college football the last 3 weeks. Guys, my favorite stat here in the NFL, if you're looking for an NFL service, maybe none better than Teddy Covers. 214 and 162. That's 57% since 2015. So he's got both short-term track records going hot and the long-term track record there in the NFL. Check him out, WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com. We got California, Washington State here, Teddy, -2. That's the Cal Golden Bears on the road, 53.5 being the total in Pullman.
Yeah, and listen, I just want to say we really appreciate you guys watching us live. Heck, we appreciate you watching us on replay. And it's always going to be free. All our content's going to be free. It's not going to be anything we'll ever charge for. The only thing we ask, if you give us a like, when it's archived, when it's posted at YouTube, you can give us a comment. You can just say comment if you want. But all that stuff helps in the algorithms, and it helps them promote us more, and it helps us get more eyeballs. So we really appreciate it. The goal is to grow the show and give you guys a good info every single week. So thanks again. Cal last year, they won 33-20, plus 8.5. Washington State won 19-13 in 2008 at -7.5. So we are seeing I guess a real shift in market value for the Cougs compared to where they've been in recent years. You understand why. I mean, Wazoo can't hang with the big boys. They were blown out by USC. They were slapped around by an Oregon team that Cal was able to shut down. Defense allowed 80 points the last 2 games. Is Cal a big boy? That's the question. I know Wazoo can't hang with the big boys. And Cal, if it could go wrong, it did go wrong for them in November. They were in a bunch of close games. They had a lot of self-inflicted mistakes. The Stanford game certainly stands out to me as one where it was just, Cal was like, here, we don't want the game. Let's, they spent most of that game with a shotgun pointed straight at their foot. And then, they got the game-tying touchdown and then missed extra point. That's exactly the way it was going for Cal. But getting the win last week, certainly a positive sign. Defensively, this team, I think, is a whole lot better than Wazoo. And again, you have common opponents to look at. Oregon moved the football up and down the field against Wazoo. They couldn't move the football that same way against Cal. Chase Garber is a QB who I like. I don't love. I definitely don't love Cal's receiving core. I've noticed it feels like they have a lack of playmakers. There's not a lot the receivers are doing to help their quarterback. At the same time, Wazoo has dealt with COVID issues. That was a no-show last week against USC, down 35-0 by midway in the second quarter of that ball game. And off of that type of performance in this weird season, I'd be reluctant to back Washington State this time around. Cal's chalk here for a reason.
Teddy, we got last game here for the Every Game on the Board podcast, and we'll get most confident plays out there. 1:00 Eastern kick here. Conference USA action to end it. A game only a sports bettor could love. UAB Blazers at the Rice Owls. UAB minus 7-point road favorites. 44 the total in Houston.
Well, I mean, I can't say only a sports bettor would love this. Rice had the most bizarre game of anyone last week. They were 20-point dogs. It's a dead Rice team, and they blow out at Marshall. They just beat them.
Yeah.
They blew them out. You're like, how the hell did that happen? And then you go through the play-by-play after the game, and you say, how the hell did that happen? I mean, there was Marshall. Marshall threw 5 picks and committed 8 penalties. Rice gained 213 yards and gained under 3 yards a carry. And we don't know if Rice is that was with their backup quarterback. You don't even know if the starter, Mike Collins, is going to come back this week. He's still a question mark. 10-1 TD to INT ratio for the season. So, UAB last year was minus 10. They won the game 35-20. 2018, UAB was minus 17. They won that game 42-0. It's been a fairly one-sided series of late. And Rice, is a team that had 6 postponements or cancellations this season. I think as much or more than any other team in college football. All kinds of momentum. UAB's got a pair of losses. Their last 2 against Louisiana and La Tech. They're not a good running game. I'm not inclined to lay a touchdown here with the Blazers. They might win. They might win comfortably. But I'm not. Who am I kidding? I'm not taking Rice either. It's a pass for me.
All right, past ended from Teddy Covers. Guys, we said it in the stats just a minute ago. Check them out at both WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. 57% in the NFL since 2015. Multi-year there, guys. Long-term track record. Also 78% last 5 weeks in the NFL. And rock solid 64% college football last 3 weeks. He's got his 5% plays up. Check him out at WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com. Also, written analysis on a free play here. New Orleans Saints versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Good stuff there at sportsmemo.com. Check them out. Expert tab. Teddy Covers. Teddy, can you leave us with a most confident play here for the watchers?
So, look, it's a line that made my head scratch, but I can't leave it alone. It's Virginia +3 at Virginia Tech. Virginia's the better team.
Okay.
So that's the one that absolutely jumps off the page at me for this one. And you say, I do wonder if I'm worried about a concerted effort from the Hokies, but I'm not that worried about it. Virginia's better. When I get the better team catching points, I'm interested. But Virginia +3, that's betting number 421, and that is on the ACC network. 5:00 here on the left coast, 8 p.m. on Saturday night on the East Coast.
All right, liking the Who's in the Virginia Tech game. And Mike asked him what my best bet is. I'm going with the Miami Hurricanes for this section, Mike. Minus 3-point home favorites in Hard Rock. Love the De'Ara King, Rhett Lashley combination, offensive coordinator, quarterback there. It's really working for him. 48-0 over Duke last week. Plus the fact, a little interesting note here, Teddy. Mac Brown and Manny Diaz, they know each other. Manny Diaz worked for Mac Brown. 2013 was the defensive coordinator for the Texas Longhorns, and Mac Brown fired him. So now they're facing each other. I think Manny Diaz and company is going to come back after him. Plus the fact UNC just 4-6 ATS, the Miami Hurricanes 6-3 ATS, being there in South Florida at home. I think there's a real home field advantage with the fans, with the extra piped in sound from Hard Rock, both with the Dolphins and the Canes. So I think the Canes here -3 at home over UNC is my best bet. Teddy, I'll throw it over to you. Anything you want to shout out before we shut this down?
No. Hey, thanks, guys. And again, any likes, we really appreciate. Any comments, we really appreciate it. You can tell me, you can tell us whether you like us, you hate us, I don't care. But that's the thing that you can do to help us every week, and we really appreciate it. And again, Corey Williams, hang on. So now I'm looking at the comments because I had my notes up. Corey, when you write something like that, I'll never bet Marshall again. that's the wrong way to think about it. Maybe this is the week to bet Marshall. When you lose a team with one, when the team plays a bad game 1 week, it doesn't mean that team is a bad bet the rest of the season. Doesn't mean that they're going to be a bad bet next year or 4 years from now or whatever. So tap the brakes, my friend. It happens. Sometimes we bet 20-point favorites that get their asses kicked. It's happened to me. It's happened to Drew. It happened to you. Where is a badge of honor? Don't say, I'm never betting that team again ever for any reason. You'll find a spot somewhere down the line where you'll want your money on Marshall.
All right, Teddy. Well said. Great way to end it. Guys, follow him on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Look for his packages at sportsmemo.com. You can follow me on Twitter at DrewMartinBets. Again, guys, if you're watching on replay, feel free to drop a comment below. Please smash the like button on your way out. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, guys. Stay safe. We'll talk on Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time for the